This is honestly like one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, it is. Hello and welcome to my channel, The Danish Readaholic. My name is Silke and today I will be tier ranking all of the books that I read in 2023. I just absolutely love these tier ranking videos and I feel like it's such a good way to like kind of quickly wrap up all of your reading and also kind of look away from the stats, because yes, maybe I've given one of the books a 3-star rating, but I'm putting it below one that got a 2-star rating, and that's because I feel like the stats are like the statistics and more objectively looking at the books, like how great were they, whereas with the tier ranking it's more how well did I enjoy it, do I remember anything about it, because obviously if I don't remember anything then it shouldn't get like a higher rating, even though it got maybe 4 stars. Anyways, we all know what a tier ranking is, so I think we should just get on with it. So, enjoy! We're now going to be doing the tier list. I have some new tiers, and they're basically based off the 100 characters, because I was thinking of a series where I have people that I like strongly dislike and people that I absolutely freaking love, and a lot of in-betweeners. I was originally just going to do like the 6 friends from Friends, but there's not really anyone that I like strongly dislike. The one that I dislike the most is Ross, but I don't like hate him. I do that with a character here. I felt like that was fitting. They're obviously already in order, so I don't feel like I need that much explanation. Bellamy is my absolute all-time favorite character. He will never do anything that can piss me off and turn me away from him, even though he does a bunch of shitty things. The next one might be a little bit controversial. I don't know. Maybe it's not a lot of people's favorites. I actually don't know. But I really like John Murphy, and the fact that he starts out as being this big asshole and then grows to be a better character, I really like that. So I put him as like second, because he's close to Bellamy but not quite, like there's something missing. Then I have Octavia. She would be higher if it wasn't for like some of the later seasons. She pissed me off then, and I was like, I get where she's coming from, but it's still pissing me off. Then I have Clark. She's a good like middle one for me. Similarly with Octavia, she has a lot of strong points, but I also feel like she's very repetitive in the way that she feels like everything's on her shoulders, even though it kind of isn't in the later seasons. And also I feel like she puts a lot of that pressure on herself, but that's just honestly a talk for another time. Then I have Abby, which is Clark's mom. She does have her like good moments, but she's not a character that I think of as like a favorite of mine. There's a lot of characters that could have come before Abby, and in the later season she pissed me off beyond belief. Similarly with Jasper, I think I liked him in the first season, and then it was just downhill ever since they got to Mount Weather. I was just like, I have had it with this character. I need him to disappear one way or the other. Finally, we have Allie. This is a character that I did not see any good points to whatsoever. I hate her with a burning passion. I will say Jasper is closer to Allie than he is to Abby, but it's a good middle point still. So I feel like that kind of explains the tier, but then again, it is, you know, from top to bottom, just how they are. I felt like this time I wanted to try and do something different. I was also debating like doing ABBA songs, but I don't have an ABBA song that I absolutely hate, so we're doing characters. Next time I will pick some other characters or some other things to do, maybe like artists or something, but again, there's not really any that I like absolutely hate. Anyways, let's get started. We have 46 books to get through, and we'll see what happens. Alrighty, we're gonna start off with Mary Poppins, which was a book that I read recently. I have never read the Mary Poppins books before, and I absolutely love the movies, both of them actually. The book, I want to say like it's probably an Octavia. Like I really like it, but it was also, there was something missing, and there were more missing than I could put it like in Murphy, if you know. So like it's good, it's great actually. It will probably be the equivalent to the great tier, so I'm gonna put it in Octavia. I'm sorry that the books are a little bit small. I think it's because some of them are like squared, but I hope you can see what I'm doing. Next up, we have School for Good and Evil, book 3, which is called The Last Ever After. And I am probably gonna put that in Octavia as well. I remember it as being a good book, but I don't remember like any plot points. I wouldn't be able to like tell you what happened, and that is basically why I'm putting it in Octavia, because I feel like if I had to put it in Murphy, it would have to be a book that would stick with me and that I could like explain what happened. I know like the major plot point, but I can't really tell you any details about it. So that is why it's going in Octavia. Next up we have what's it called? Beneath the Sugar Sky. And I recently read that. I think I read it in December. I am also going to put that in Octavia because I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't as good as the first one in the series. That really took me by surprise, and that was just so good. But I do still like that we are talking about the same characters, even though we're not really following the same person from the first book. I also really like that we saw the person from the first book despite her not being in this place anymore. I really enjoyed that. Then we have Hunger Games. Honestly, I feel like I'm putting everything in Octavia right now, but it's gonna change, I promise you. I'm putting Hunger Games in the Octavia tier simply because, why am I doing that? I am doing it because I have seen them, like I saw the movie before I read the books, and I think had I read the books before, which is a lesson I keep relearning, if I had read the books first, it would have been higher. But because I didn't get that suspense, I was like, are they gonna win? Like, what are they gonna do? And since I didn't get that suspense and then I knew how it ended, I have to put it in Octavia and not Murphy, because the reading experience for me wasn't as good as it could have been had I not known what was gonna happen. Then we have Snot Girl, Volume 1. Oh, I'm so in doubt with this. I am so in doubt. Where do I put this? I think I'm actually going to put that one in Murphy. It is probably, of all the graphic novels that I have, it is probably my favorite series, which is also why I've read the entire thing this year. I think I will actually just go ahead and put the 2nd and the 3rd volume up there as well. Simply because it's just a good series overall, and I didn't expect what was going to happen. And when you start out, it seems like a very chill story about this influencer who has an issue with allergies, and then the more you get into it, you realize that there's actually kind of like a mystery going on as well, and a lot of other things that you need to consider. And I actually do think that that is really great. I also love the art style. It's beautifully done, and I love a lot of the characters and all of their special little characteristics. It's very well done in such a short series, because it is a graphic novel and it's only 3 volumes, so it's going in the Murphy tier. Then we have To Kill a Kingdom, and I think a lot of people already know that this will be in the Bellamy tier. This is one of my favorite books of the year, and I have nothing bad to say about it. Why did I even pick it up? Maybe it was on a whim, or maybe it was in my game. I don't remember. But I picked it up. I think I read it in a few days, and I was just like, I can't put this book down. I can't put this book down. And I didn't. So I completed it. Then we have The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is a reread, and I think I'm also going to put that in Octavia. This time around, I actually liked it better than I did the first time around, and I can't explain why. This time I listened to it as an audio, and I think that might have been a good thing. The audiobook is really great. I'm going to put it in Octavia. I think it fits well with the books that are also already there. Then we have Ice Wolves. I'm going to put it in Jasper. It was fine for what it was, but it's not a series that I will be continuing, and it's also a book that I eventually will get rid of. There was a bunch of things with it that I just did not like. The way that the main character acted, and also I was just a little bit bored, I'm gonna have to admit. Next up we have Hellboy. This is a short story collection, so I am gonna put it in Clark. Some of the stories in here I absolutely loved. Would have probably been in the Bellamy tier by themselves. Others I didn't care much for. Probably would have been in Abby. There was not anything that would have been in Jasper or Allie, so I could probably argue that this could be higher up. But there was a bunch of the stories actually that I was just like, okay, I'm not really too interested in this one, so I could potentially have skipped it. So I'm gonna put it in Clark because I feel like it's a good mix of both good and bad. Then we have Christmas Dinner of Souls. I'm really glad that I read this because it was just, I don't know, it was good. I didn't expect it to end the way that it did, so that's a great point. Also, it's kind of like short stories, but it's done in a way that it's like they're at this dinner and they're competing to tell the most gruesome tale during Christmas. And so you get like the in-between and then you have the tales as well. And it's actually really good. I'm gonna put it in Clark actually, because even though it's really good, similarly with Hellboy, I also really like that. I would recommend it, and I also would recommend Christmas Dinner of Souls. But there was just some of the stories where it was like, okay, this story is not gripping me enough, so I'm gonna just read through it really, really fast and then move on to something else. So in that way, I feel like it fits in Clark. Next up, we have Romanoff. I'm gonna put it in Murphy. It is not one of my all-time favorites. It is not one of my, favorites of the year. Well, maybe it probably will be now that I'm thinking of it. Romanoff is a book that follows Anastasia, basically, or Anastasia, however you want to say it. And it's very much inspired by the real story of Anastasia. There is, of course, a magical element to it as well that I really like. I like the romance that we have in it. And I just like how historically accurate it is without being a historical fiction. So even though that it is a fantasy, and of course there are inaccuracies, it is more accurate than I had expected. So there's a lot of things where I was like, that is actually kind of correct. And I really did like that. And then we of course have the fantastical element, and just overall I'm always biased when it comes to retellings of Anastasia because I love that. All right, then we have Visitkort. I'm gonna put that in Abby, simply because in this is like a poetry collection, and in this there were more things that I didn't like than that I did like. I also heard it was recommended to me by one of my friends, and he said that it's actually better to hear him perform his poetry. And he also says that in the book that most of the things that he had written in there was actually supposed to be heard and not read. So I think that is what makes me a little because I would like to have heard it, and I think that would have made a different impression on me. So that is why I'm putting it in Abby. Then we have The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. This is the first book, and I honestly don't remember which one of it is. I can't see it. Maybe it's Season of the Witch. I'm gonna put that in. I'm actually gonna put it in Abby, not because I didn't like it, because I do. This was a reread, and I liked it better than the first time around. I listened to it as an audio, and still one of my main problems with this is the change in character from Ambrose, who is my favorite character from the series, and I feel like he acts in the book like he wouldn't do. He wouldn't act like that in the series, because in the series he's so protective of Sabrina, and I don't feel like he acts that way in the book, and that kind of ruined it a bit for me. I do still like it, but it's definitely not higher up than Abby. Then we have the entirety of Heartstopper, and I'm actually they're probably gonna be in the same one. Where's the last one? We have 1, 2, and 3, and did I forget one? Why do I always do this? I forgot one, but we're just gonna leave it because they would be in the same tier anyways, because I have a little bit of trouble not telling them apart, but a little bit, because I read them back to back. I will put them in, I will put them in Murphy. There we go. Maybe I think I did this last time as well, and that was also a Heartstopper. Maybe I just don't want to upload the Heartstopper that I find. Hold on. I'm gonna try and see if I can add it, because I know that I downloaded it. Where is it? Heartstopper. It's this one. Upload. There we go. Now I have all the Heartstoppers. And I'm gonna put them in Murphy because I really did enjoy them. I think if I would have to pick a favorite, it would be the fourth one, because they're kind of going into more heavier themes that I can personally relate to. Not all of them, but there are some of the things I think maybe I don't remember, it's been a while, that since I read it, I'm gonna reread it now that, whenever I get my hands on the fifth one, I'm gonna reread the entire thing. But I did like the fourth one the best, but I also enjoyed the way that they grew in the first three. But now that I think that they've kind of established this kind of connection and relationship, I feel like now they can focus on other themes as well, and I feel like that's great. Then we have Into the Wild. That goes in Alley. Probably because I went into this thinking that it would be a story and not as much like is it called a biography or autobiography? I really don't know. But I did not care for it. I was really bored. Had it been a really long book, I would have DNF'd it, but since it was short and I listened to it as an audio, I just decided to power through, and maybe I shouldn't have. Then we have Liv og Død, Life and Death. It is a medical examiner, and I am going to put that in Abby. No, I'm going to put it in Jasper. I did like it. I do like these true crime things. I have realized that I prefer like police officers, maybe also lawyers and stuff. I would rather read books from their perspective than a medical examiner. But it was interesting and getting like an insight of their job as well, and how they discover all of these things that they discover just looking at a dead body. Then we have The Dragon and the Queen. I'm gonna put it in Octavia for similar reasons to School for Good and Evil. I know that I absolutely love this book, but I cannot tell you what happened in it. I can tell you like the overall points and what the series is about. But what specifically happened in this book, I couldn't tell you, and that is why it goes in Octavia, because I know that I loved it, but I don't remember plot points in it. Then we have A Whale of the Wild. I'm gonna put it in Murphy. I enjoyed this so much. This was purely just a good time, and it's kind of fun to read a book where the main character is an animal. I don't do that a lot. In this, we just follow a whale, and we follow the whale like inside of its head and how it communicates with other animals, and just doing whaley kind of stuff. We follow a young orca and her little brother as they get separated from their pack, and it's just such a wholesome story, and I freaking love it. Then we have Legendborn. I'm gonna put it in Octavia. Once again, I remember major plot points, but the smaller details I kind of don't remember all that well. I also have an issue with urban fantasies, that. I don't know if you would call this urban fantasy or magical realism. That's always a distinction that I have trouble with. But basically, where things are set now, during this time, in a world that exists, and then we have a fantasy element that kind of intervenes with that. It's very, very few books like that I like. Master of Iron, Bellamy tier. I loved Blade of Secrets, and I love Master of Iron just as much. I had trouble with Master of Iron to see how they were going to win. And also I really, really loved the romance, and that is two things that I like in books, because if I am like, all right, I see that they're in trouble, but I also see that they are going to win. I'm not even the slightest bit in doubt that this is going to have a happy ending. Then it kind of takes a little bit away from the enjoyment. But when I'm like, this was going to be tough and we might lose some lives that I don't want us to lose, then that makes it just all the way, like, way better. Then we have The Raven Heir. I'm going to put that next to Into the Wild. Even though Into the Wild, I really don't like that, and Raven Heir, I can find a few redeeming qualities. But looking at the Jasper tier, the Raven Heir doesn't fit there as well. We're going to put it in Alley, because it was too fast, the characters were too annoying for me, and it was just not it. Then we have Spectrum. I'm gonna put it in Jasper. I don't remember anything about it. It is a Danish fantasy. It's a Danish urban fantasy, and it was just not for me. I don't really have anything else to say. Then we have Fable. I am gonna put that in Murphy. It's a reread. I loved it the first time around, love it the second time around. I don't really have any further comments, to be honest. Then we have Thirst. I read this in the beginning of the year. I thought it was a book that I was gonna, just gonna completely mess with my emotions. It didn't. I still really liked it, but I'm gonna put it in Clark. Simply because It was good, but it wasn't that good. Midnight in Everwood. It had such high potential for me. But when reading it, I was like zoning out a lot. And it just didn't grab me how I thought it was gonna grab me. And I couldn't tell you what it was about, honestly. So I'm gonna put it in Midnight in Everwood. The atmosphere was stunning. And the whole ballet aspect, I liked it a lot. But there was just a bunch of things where I was like, what even happened just now? I don't understand. Then we have Violet Made of Thorns. I'm gonna have to put it in Octavia. You already know the reason, because it's the same as some of the others. I know that I loved it, because at the time of reading it and looking back at my like ratings and stuff, it got high ratings. I think it got 4 out of 5 stars. But I honestly don't remember anything about it. Not even major plot points. I remember what it says on the book when I read what it says on the book, but I don't remember anything else. But I remember loving it. Then we have the Weirdies, and the Weirdies gets weirder. These are 2 audiobooks that are only available on Audible. I'm actually gonna put them in Octavia. They were such a good time. Such a good time. It was just ridiculousness overload, and I loved it, especially the second one. It's Kate Winslet that is the narrator, and there was this thing about, there was like shipwreck, and there was like some characters that were on a door, you know, Titanic style, and her commentary on that was just so much fun. I really like when, with these kind of kid stories, that when it's a narrator, like when it's an audiobook, that the book is written like you would read it aloud to people, so there are like comments along the way. I feel like it was also kind of like that with Narnia, so I really like that like style of book when it's toward like when the intended audience is kids. Next up we have Glass Slippers, also Octavia tier. It was really good. You know what? I'm gonna put it in Murphy because it was actually really, really good. We follow Cinderella's third stepsister and how she has kind of moved in with Cinderella because she wasn't a part of any of the things, but they're still a little bit wary about her. And then the slippers disappear and all of them immediately think that it's her, but it is not. And also our main character, she's a little bit of an unreliable narrator, but we also kind of don't know if she's good or bad because she's kind of in between. Because obviously she likes her mom and her sisters, but she also understands that they did wrong, and she also likes her stepsister, Cinderella. So it's very good. Then we have Fight and Flight, Octavia. There was a lot of things I liked about it, and I think why it goes in Octavia and not further up is simply because of the genre, because I just don't really do well with contemporaries, and they rarely get a higher rating than this. The story in itself was amazing, the characters were amazing, and like the whole story centers around this school shooting drill that kind of went over the top, and how these kids want to fight back and make sure that these types of drills aren't performed anymore. And then each of the characters have something that they go through. One has like a disability and the other has some mental health issues. And it's just how they support each other is just beautiful. And also LGBTQ+. Then we have She Gets the Girl. I'm gonna put it in Clark. I don't remember anything about this book. I remember liking it for what it was, but once again, it is a contemporary, and it was not a groundbreaking contemporary to me, and I didn't fall in love with any of the characters. It was a cute story, and that was, like, it did what it was supposed to, and I guess Clark does as well. Then we have Solsali Sokotop. I really don't know how to translate this, but it is some strange fairy tale things that I have. They are normally in like a companion with some other like fairy tales that is called disgusting fairy tales, just when you translate them. And they're kind of like in between and centers around this little girl and a grandmother. And then this grandmother is just kind of infuriating to this little girl, so she ends up blowing her up basically every single time. When you read it in the context of all the fairy tales that you're supposed to, it's really great. But when you read it by itself, it's a bunch of stories with the same outcome. So you don't really get a break from it. It's just every single one. It's like, okay, I wonder if she's going to blow her up. I think there was 1 or 2 times where she didn't, but a whole book where every single chapter ends with that, it's a little bit too much. So I'm going to put that in Abby. I did enjoy it because it was nostalgic. I had read these when I was younger, and this is actually the first time reading all of them because I didn't when I was younger. I am going to read the fairy tales probably this year because they're fun. And also it's been a while now since I've read these, so I could probably read the fairy tales and read these because they're also in there, and then not really feel like it's too repetitive. Then we have Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I'm gonna put that in... You know what? I'm gonna put it in Murphy because I did really like it. At first I was like, this book is all over the place. And I didn't really know what the point was. But then I kind of... Like, at the end I kind of tied it all together. And I liked this whole thing with it not being one big quest. There was this one enemy that was... like introduced in the beginning, and then they had to work out how to defeat this enemy. It was kind of like, okay, I'm working as an archer for the army, so I'm going on all of these different tasks and handling these different type of monsters. And it's not just, okay, I'm going now, killed it, I'm going back. It's, okay, I'm going to this place, they need help with something, I'm gonna figure out what it is, but I'm also kind of gonna stay there for a while, kind of get to learn, is it really this thing that is the problem, or is there something else? So it was a bunch of like smaller problems and issues and quests built into this entire story. And then we have this one major thing at the end. And of course, our main character has a goal from the beginning that she is working towards, but that doesn't really have anything to do with like the main villain. That is more for personal gains. So I really like this, the way that the story was built, and it's not something that I have kind of experienced before, so that is why it goes in the Murphy tier. Then we have Bittersweet. I'm gonna put it in Jasper because Bittersweet did the absolute least for me. It was a smutty romance book and heavy on the smut, not so heavy on the plot. And I've kind of come to realize that when it comes to these type of books, I want there to be a plot. I want to be able to fall in love with the characters and want to be the girl and have the guy, you know? In this, I kind of didn't want to be the girl because she was annoying as fuck. And the guy was kind of also, like, it seemed like a very toxic relationship. I don't think that they were going to last at all. But you know what? Maybe I'm wrong, but it was just not for me. I'm probably not going to continue. This is like the third in this series, and in each book you follow different characters, and I'm just not going to try the other ones, I think. Then we have Whiteout. I'm going to put it in Clark. I liked it a lot. I listened to it as an audio during Christmas time. It was very nice and very cozy. However, same things with She Gets a Girl. It was a little bit predictable. It's a contemporary, and that's just not... It's rarely going to get a higher rating than this. So then we have Icebreaker. That one can go in Murphy. This is one of the exceptions to this contemporary thing I have. I really liked Icebreaker. This is smut, but there's also a story, and a story that I like. And it was not an over-the-top story like Bittersweet is. It was a story that was kind of a little bit more relatable, even though I am not even close to being similar to our main characters. I really liked it, and I actually am going to continue this series. What is the next one called? Is it Wildfire? And then there's already like a third coming out, and I'm just waiting, honestly, to get my hands on them. Then we have Purple Hearts. I'm gonna put it in the Abby tier because I liked it better than Bittersweet, but I also don't remember a damn thing. I've seen the movie. This one does a little bit better at explaining things, but I still like the movie better. So I think it fits well in the Abby tier, and looking at the books that is next to it, I feel like it's just the perfect place. Then we have City of Nightmares. This is probably my favorite book of the year. You know what? That's hard to say. I know that I have like a top 3. It's not the 3 that are up there. Master of Iron is on the 4th place, but still it fits with the Bellamy tier. But City of Nightmares, I was not expecting to love it as much as I do. And now I've gotten my hands on the 2nd one, and I am probably going to read it this month. Maybe it will fit with one of the prompts and I can switch out my TBR. I don't know. But, oh my god, I'm so excited. Spice Road. That is the final one in my top 3. So my top 3 of the year is To Kill a Kingdom, City of Nightmares, Spice Road. I am just waiting semi-patiently for the 2nd book in the Spice Road series to come out because I need to know what happens. It didn't end the way that I kind of wanted it to in the first one in regards to like 2 of the characters. I was like, guys, just give in to the tension. But they didn't. Hopefully they will in the next one, maybe the 3rd one, I don't know. I'll wait as long as it takes. Then we have Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. When I read this, I've already talked about kind of like my issues with it. I am gonna put it in Abby, simply because I don't think that this is supposed to be a YA book. It feels very middle grade to me. I wouldn't market this as YA. And I went into it knowing that it is marketed as YA, and it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. I feel like the themes of it are very middle grade. There's nothing in it that makes it not middle grade. Like, there's nothing that feels too old. So I don't see why it's YA. The story in itself was good. I think just the thing that made me not enjoy it was that it was marketed wrong. And I went to it thinking YA. Finally, we have Balladen om den forsvundne mumie. The mystery of the missing mummy. And this is a Danish, the first book in a Danish kind of fantasy series where we follow a group of wax figures that come to life at night. So we have like Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, we have a werewolf, we have a knight that is kind of like a ghost, but we still have the armor. And then we have a mummy, and I think that is all. We also have a dragon, but that's not really one of like the main 5. I really enjoyed this, and I'm actually going to put it in Octavia. No, you know what? I'm going to put it in Clark. I did still really enjoy this, but I was spacing out a little bit, and that's my fault. But that just makes me feel like I can't put it in Octavia because it wasn't gripping me enough to like pay full attention. I have read this before, but it's been years. But I am going to continue with the series because like I think the characters are really funny, and it's just a nice, fun, quick like palate cleanser in my opinion. Here is my tier ranking. At first I was like, okay, everything is just going into the Octavia tier, but then we got further on and I can see like now it's spread out nicely and kind of looks exactly how I feel like my reading year has been. There's been a lot of good books. We have also some middles, and then we have the few ones that just was not for me and that I have accepted that they were not for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment telling me what your top 3 books of 2023 was. And if you just want to let me know that you're here but don't know what to comment, you can always leave a green heart. If you like this video, please hit the like icon, and if you want to see more of my bookish content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It would just mean the world to me. And until I see you next time, bye!